You might remember a couple weeks ago I did a bench vise showdown where I had my Howard's Total Crossover Vise setup. I also had the Real Avid, and then I had my Pattern Maker's Vise, the woodworking one. And a lot of people have been asking since then, which one did you keep? Which one did you stick with? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. I've stuck with the Howard's Total Vise, but not in the way that I think a lot of people were expecting. Here is the Crossover Vise, Crossover 2, I think is what he calls it. Crossover Vise number 2. He did have another one that was a little bit different design, but this is his current model here. I had this one bolted up for the test, and I'll be honest, for my purposes, it was a little big, and I didn't need the articulation of this head rotating 90 degrees up and down. I don't really work with my gun in a vertical position. I'm not a gunsmith. Most of my needs are going to be either mounting scopes, removing stocks, putting triggers on, taking my triggers off, putting barrels on, stuff like that. And honestly, this was just a little bit bigger than I needed. It did take up, while not a lot of real estate, it is a fairly decent sized footprint, although it is incredibly stable, and I definitely see the functionality of it. So I was looking around on his website after I did that video thinking, well, are there any accessories I could buy? And I came across this, which is the Bow, let me get the name right here. It is the Bow Press Bench Base. Say that 5 times. But it's again, designed to take his tubes, right? So it's the same exact tube design, but it's a much simpler design. It is simply a base and the tube and a lockdown ring. So I can swivel, which is really all I want to do, and then be able to lock it down. And it takes up a lot less space on the bench. It's off on one side, which I really like that he did this design instead of putting it dead center. This way, there is room on the left side here. So, when I'm cleaning or something, I still have room. I can put stuff over here and it's not a big deal. Sometimes I'll put my bore guide over here. And I've had this for a few weeks now. And same exact head assembly. Now, the big difference is the price. Like, I was shocked at the difference in pricing. So, if you remember right, in this configuration, even with his package pricing, I think it's about $330 something, $335, and that's a little bit of a discount for the package. And it's a hell of a setup. Like, again, this does a ton of articulation. I just don't have the need for it. So what I did is did this combination, and that saved me $120. This base on its own is only like $65, which is honestly, I think it's a bargain. So it's $65, and then the head on its own is $150. So, you're looking about, what is that, $215 or so, if my math is right, for the whole setup. Now, that's only about $60 more than getting the Pattern Maker's Vise, and it's about $90 less or $80 less than what the Real Avid retails for. Even though it has been found cheaper. Real Avid goes anywhere from like $250 to $300. So it's still cheaper than the Real Avid, a little bit more than the Pattern Makers. But in this configuration, it's now gone from the most expensive setup to the middle priced setup. And for that reason, I decided to keep it, because I think this works really well. So I went ahead and just bought this and had him ship it to me. And, again, I pay full price for all of this stuff. And it is really nice. It gives me everything I need. Now let me put a gun in this, and I want to talk about a couple things that came up during my last video. So because we're using the same head assembly, it still has these stoppers. Now you can technically adjust the height of these. They're kind of set all the way at the highest setting right now. You can drop it down a little bit, but then you have to be really careful, because if you come down too low, you could potentially be hitting the springs and the other nuts that are in here. But there could be a situation where you need to lower that, and that's fine. And so we're just going to go ahead and kind of lock this down right here. And I'm going to put my gun in here. Now, it's already opened, and now I'm going to turn it so you guys can see. It's a little head heavy because of my barrels, but it really doesn't take much to hold it in position, and then I'm going to tighten it down. Now, there was some people, in particular one person, who called me out as pretty much an idiot, and then deleted his comment, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to them. But he was implying that I was using the base, this base wrong in terms of how I was tightening it because of my complaints about this third wheel down here. So I called and talked to Jeff Howard, who makes this thing, and said, look, am I doing something wrong? You know, I want to make sure I'm telling everybody the right way to do it. He said, no, you're using it the right way. Don't worry. He said it can be used both ways, which is really these wheels are for really cinching it down. So if you want to really tighten it down, this is the way to do it. And in order to keep this parallel, you do need to make sure you adjust this third knob, which keeps the plate running parallel. Now, there are situations where if you want to quickly remove the gun or whatever's in here, you can loosen this third one and it'll release the pressure and you can pull this out and then put it back in. But it is virtually impossible to apply enough pressure to this to hold this 100%. Does it do most of what you'd need? Yeah, sure, it does. But don't make the mistake of using this as your only torque if you are going to be applying pressure to whatever is mounted in here. Even he told me, make sure you cinch down these two upper knobs to really give it good grab. So yes, it can be used both ways. Neither way makes you an idiot for doing it. But again, I wanted to clarify that with the guy who made it to make sure that I wasn't doing something wrong. And one of the reasons why you don't want to completely apply pressure here is that it's just pressing against, let me show you here. So when you're using this third knob, it's pressing against just a metal plate down here, and you can see that it's, you know, basically scraping into that. And it, as he told me, this is meant mainly to keep the jaws parallel, not as a clamping force. So for quick removal or something, sure, you could use it for a quick removal or quick install if you're not doing a lot of pressure on it. But again, you want to make sure that you're using the two upper screws. This is the same head that I did the test with last time when I was showing you. I do have a couple more accessories coming, and there are a couple things that I ordered, and I'm going to do a separate video on those just to make it easy. But to answer everybody's question, I stuck with the Howard's Vise, and a lot of the reason that I stuck with it was for the versatility. The fact that this is easily removable. He makes, again, a ton of accessories that can go in here, and while I don't have a need for a lot of them right now, you never know what you're going to end up wanting to do with a bench vise, and I loved having the flexibility. I will tell you, it was very close, though. I really liked the Real Avid. I liked the way it worked. For what it's worth, I didn't like the fact that it was a floating ball, because it required that I balance a gun while I was moving it around. And for that reason alone, this stability here just left it a lot easier for me to be able to rotate while the gun was still locked in the head. It's a personal preference thing. I still think the Real Avid is a great design. I still think the Pattern Maker Vise is a great design. I think all three can work for people depending on their needs. And that's really why I made the video, just because you're going to look at something and you go, well, that's all I need, or hey, I really could use that functionality. And to me, that's what's important between these three, is understanding why one might be better than the other. Again, for me, this was the perfect setup, especially switching down to this. Again, all in, I think it's like $215 or something. And, you know, you can't beat that. So there you go. Appreciate everybody watching. If you have any questions, hit me up below. I am going to put out a couple more videos here with a few different accessories, and show you some different options of what you can do with it. So have a good one. We'll talk later.